Welcome back to Cinematic Universe. Today, I will show you an action, mystery, sci-fi film from 2015, titled Self/Less. Watch out and take care. Damien Hale, a successful businessman and billionaire, is looking through large glass windows in his skyscraper apartment in NYC. Behind him, a nurse is getting ready to leave and is picking up her tools. The billionaire has terminal cancer and barely 6 months left to live. Later, during lunch with his best friend Martin, they discuss his illness and how he still hasn't told his daughter Claire about it. Damien doesn't have a good relationship with Claire because he was a workaholic while she was growing up and didn't spend enough time with her. Martin thinks that if Claire knows about the illness, she will forgive him and they will quickly make amends. Before Damien and Martin weighs, the billionaire asks his friend whether he heard of shedding, and Martin says no. While in his limousine, Damien tries to call Claire, but she doesn't answer. Then he pulls a business card of a company named Phoenix Biogenetic and remembers the conversation he had with the company owner, Dr. Albright. The doctor's primary mission in life is to offer humanity's greatest minds a way to extend their life and fulfill their full potential. He has created a device that can transport consciousness from one body to another, a process known as shedding. The company provides new bodies genetically engineered to perfection to everyone willing to pay big money for them. Damien remembers how he asked the doctor why their service was still illegal. Albright said that he asked the wrong questions. The right question would be, do you feel immortal? After going through these memories and wondering whether to take Albright's offer, Damien goes to see Claire, who is running a non-profit organization. Wanting to make things right before dying, he gives his daughter money but doesn't tell her about the illness. She refuses to take the money because she thinks he's manipulating her, expecting his checkbook to solve every problem. Later, Damien is sitting in his office, disappointed with how things turned out with Claire. Desperate to have another chance at life, he continues to research shedding and Phoenix Biogenic. He discovers that the procedure was invented by Dr. Jensen and watches a video of him explaining the philosophy behind it. Jensen wanted to free the mind from the body and allow people to live even after the body dies. But as Damien is researching shedding, he starts coughing blood and faints. The illness is starting to consume him, so when he wakes up with breathing tubes attached to his nose, he decides to call Albright and schedule the procedure. Albright explains how after the switch, he can't contact anybody and that his old life won't exist. He also instructs him to come to New Orleans and publicly fake his death. The next day, Damien's on a plane and calls Martin, asking if they can have lunch in New Orleans. Before meeting him, he goes to the New Orleans graveyard and buries a mysterious box near one grave. At lunch with Martin, Damien fakes a seizure and falls on the floor. Martin gets scared and calls 911. But instead of going to the hospital, the ambulance vehicle takes the billionaire to Phoenix Biogenic. They quickly start the procedure, so they inject Damien with a needle and put him in the machine, fully conscious. The strong lights and loud sounds make him even more uncomfortable, but his perception is quickly transferred into the new young body. When Damien turns his head, he sees his old body unconscious and dead. Shocked and disgusted, he throws up. Albright tells him that it will take a few days to adapt while Damien starts hallucinating. Objects start morphing and he sees a picture of a field with horses. The doctor then sarcastically says that death has side effects. Damien now has to stay in the hospital and go through training and physical therapy to get used to his new body. Since he can't go back to his new life, Damien also has to learn a fake biography and use a new name, Edward Kidner. After a brief phase of confusion and desperation, he starts liking his new handsome self, but the hallucinations and headaches don't go away. Albright tells him that his mind still hasn't got used to the new neural structures, so he gives him pills that will help the transition. If Damien doesn't take them, he might die or have severe migraines and hallucinations. Also, he must stay in New Orleans to meet with Albright regularly and get his weekly pill supply. After Damien completes the training, he is dropped at a large, beautiful house in New Orleans that is now his. Damien, aka Edward, is quickly adapting and sooner than later starts playing basketball in the neighborhood. There, he meets Anton, who lives right next to him and offers to take him out. That same night they go to a club and every woman is staring at Damien, who is now a handsome young man. But he still isn't used to answering questions about his life, job, and age, so people think he's a little weird. Despite this, Damien gets into a new routine much sooner than expected. He starts hanging out with his friends, playing basketball, sleeping with beautiful women, getting his pills, clubbing, and simply enjoying life. After a while, this new routine doesn't satisfy him anymore, especially since he can't see his daughter. Distracted by his sadness, one day he forgets to take his pill and soon after, starts hallucinating. He sees flashbacks of the army along with images of a small town with a pumpkin tower. In his hallucinations, he also sees a mother with her sick little daughter living in the countryside. Since the hallucination is too vivid and strong, Damien thinks it's a memory. Later, he describes what he saw to Dr. Albright, who insists it's just a mix of his old memories and his current emotions. As a way to draw his attention to something else, the doctor gives him tickets to Hawaii and doubles his medication. He also tells him that he saw a sick little girl because he misses Claire and that the Latina woman from his hallucination is probably some one-night stand from his youth. But Damien didn't tell Albright that the woman was Latina, so he immediately starts suspecting the doctor. He knows something is wrong, so later tries to find the pumpkin tower online. Turns out, there is an exact tower in a small town in St. Louis. Looking for answers, he decides to trick Albright and go to St. Louis instead of Hawaii. Before leaving, he goes to the graveyard and digs up the box he buried. In it, there is money, documents, and credit cards, so he takes some and heads toward the airport. One of Albright's men follows him, but Damien quickly escapes his sight and catches a flight to the small town. A few hours later, he arrives right at the pumpkin tower he saw before. Next to the tower, he notices a house and knocks at the door, but there's nobody there. Sensing there's more that meets the eye, Damien decides to enter the property and inside sees medical bills and parts of a respirator machine. Most importantly, he sees a picture of Madeline and Anna, the mother and daughter from his hallucination. He also sees his new self in one of the pictures. Turns out, the body wasn't genetically engineered but was an actual person with a life. As he's dealing with the uncomfortable truth, Madeline returns home and points a gun at him from behind. He tells her to calm down and slowly turns toward her as she falls on the floor, crying in disbelief because she thought her husband was dead. As he tries to explain, Albright's men come into the house, knock out Madeline and try to kidnap Damien. His friend Anton comes too, since he was part of the Phoenix Biogenetics and was spying on him the whole time. Anton explains that Madeline's husband, Mark, agreed to give his body for money that would cover his daughter's treatment. Damien is shocked and confronts Anton, explaining why Albright is a murderer. The spy then gives a cold-hearted metaphor, telling him that it's normal to be upset because he bought a new car and just found out the car had a few miles on it. Also, even though he is angry, there's no point in coming back to the house since they will assassinate Madeline and burn her property. Luckily, the billionaire has a strong moral compass, so decides to trick Albright's men and save Madeline. He pretends to take his pills, so he goes to the bathroom and attacks one of the men there. With the help of Mark's army instincts, he kills a few of Albright's men and goes to wake up Madeline, but loses his pills during a fight. Anton and the others try to burn the house down, but Madeline and Damien go under the platform and start shooting them in the legs. Soon after, Damien kills everyone and runs toward the car with Mark's wife. Damien lies to her and pretends to be her husband, saying he agreed to do some dirty work to pay for Anna's medicine. Both of them head off to save Anna, who is at school. Anna also thinks Damien is her dad, so she runs toward him and hugs him, yelling that she knew he wasn't dead. Fortunately, the billionaire has a solid moral compass, so he decides to outsmart Albright's men and save Madeline. She pretends to take her pills, so she goes to the bathroom and attacks one of the men there. With the help of Mark's military instincts, she kills several of Albright's men and goes to wake Madeline, but loses the pill during the fight. Anton and the others try to burn the house down, but Madeline and Damien get under the platform and start shooting them in the leg. Soon after, Damien kills everyone and runs to the car with Mark's wife. Damien lies to her and pretends to be her husband, saying that he agreed to do the dirty work to pay for Anna's medication. They both went to rescue Anna that she was at school. Anna also believes that Damien is her father, so she runs to him and hugs him, yelling that she knows she's not dead. Later, the three book a motel stay where Damien uses the computer to learn more about Phoenix Biogenic. He discovers that Albright is a student of Jensen's and also finds the address of Phyllis, Dr. Jensen's wife. Since he doesn't have the pills, he gets a migraine and starts hallucinating again. Madeline is worried, but Damien knows what to do. He decided to visit Phyllis and learn more about the company. The next morning, they took the car and went to the nursing home where Jensen's wife lived. Posing as a student doing research on Jensen's work, he asks Phyllis to give him the doctor's old papers and documents. The old woman has Alzheimer's, so she believes Damian and starts telling him all kinds of information. He finds out that Albright visits him every week, so he quickly realizes that Jensen is using Albright's body. He asks Phyllis to call Albright and invite him to come. When the doctor arrives, Damian points a gun at him and demands more pills. But Albright told him the bitter truth. The more pills he took, the more Mark disappeared along with his fighting skills and military training. Without the pill, Damien's mind would be forgotten and Mark would take over his body. Damien then kidnaps Albright and demands that he take her to the lab. But as they started walking down the hall, Albright's men attacked him and disarmed him. As Damien is led into the dark vehicle, Madeline arrives and knocks out one of Albright's men. It turns out that Anton is in a new body. It is not his first step and therefore he can quickly adapt to the new boat. Damien fights off the other guards, but before the young couple can escape, Anton warns Madeline that Damien is hiding something and tells her to ask him about his daughter's birthday. As Damien and Madeline got into their car, the concerned mother insisted that they pull over as soon as the coast cleared. He wanted to explain something, especially after the interaction with Anton. He asks Damien about Anna's birthday and other details about their life together. When he couldn't come up with any answers, he began to explain the situation as Anna watched their fight from the car, wondering if everything was okay. Madeline becomes very agitated and angry because Damien is manipulating her and she has to let her daughter down. He didn't want to explain to Anna how the man who looked like her father was actually a stranger. But Albright's men want to kill him too, so even he doesn't like it or believe it. Damien, he has to work with her to survive. Then the millionaire comes up with a plan, enlist Martin's help and get Anna and Madeline to safety. When they arrive at his friend's mansion, Damien convinces Martin of the truth by explaining details that only the two of them know. Martin then agrees to help and arrange their escape. Later, Damien tries to think of a way to explain to little Anna that she will never see her father again. But she begins to bond with him, building beautiful new father-daughter memories. He teaches her to swim and they have fun together as Madeline watches from the window happily. Since she is inside her husband's body, she feels attracted to Damian, so she asks to hear his heart and kiss him. Damien feels uncomfortable and begins to tell her about his former life to distract her from Mark. He opens up about his relationship with Claire and they have an honest heart-to-heart. But suddenly, Damian noticed that all the mirrors in the house were closed. He learns that Martin's son died 2 years ago and quickly begins to suspect that something is wrong. He ran and tried to find Anna, who was in the big children's room playing with a child. Damien soon learns that Martin also took his child to Phoenix Biogenetic and gave her a new body. It turns out that Martin reports them to Albright and the killer is waiting outside to kill them. But Damien confronts his friend and tells her that the boy's body was not created in a laboratory. He is a real person and someone else's son. Martin is so shocked and disgusted that he decides to help them, this time for real. He leads Madeline and Anna to safety by walking through the woods while Damien drives the car as bait. Soon after, he chases a car with Albright's men trying to capture and kill him. After shooting and crashing their cars into each other, they all end up in a huge car accident. Damien got out of the car and made sure everyone was dead before going to the restaurant, where he was supposed to meet Madeline and Martin. However, only Martin arrived. He explains to Damien how Madeline and Anna beat him to it in the woods. They asked for help from a mysterious car on the highway. They didn't know they were Albright's men, so they were kidnapped and Martin couldn't do anything because they were so far away. Damien also learns that Martin planted Phoenix Biogenetic business cards as a way to help him. Most importantly, he discovers that Martin deciphered the formula for Albright's pill and that he can design it from scratch. But Damien begins to wonder if he should continue taking the pills, especially since doing so killed Mark. He deferred that decision until later because at the moment his priority was saving Madeline and Anna. The plan was to stop taking the pills for 12 hours, hoping to use Mark's memory to find more information about the location of the lab. During his retreat, he spots a Mardi Gras floating storage near Albright's lab, so he heads to New Orleans to find it. The next day, he goes to New Orleans and finds the lab right next to the Mardi Gras warehouse. He breaks in and attacks several guards without anyone noticing. But in the room where the machine transferred consciousness, he saw 2 new corpses. Suddenly, Albright appeared behind the glass wall. He sarcastically tells Damien that Madeline is the perfect body for the new client, and Anna's organs will not go to waste. Damien gets angry and shoots the glass that separates them when suddenly 2 of Albright's men appear and disarm him. His body will now be used as a new vessel for Anton's consciousness. Before boarding the machine, Damien finds a bullet and swallows it without anyone noticing. The next thing we know, Anton wakes up in Mark's body. Albright began asking questions to determine if he was really Anton. Once convinced, he sends her on a mission to kill Madeline and Anna. But when Anton entered the room they were staying in, he killed the guard and saved the mother and child. Turns out Damien was in Mark's body the whole time. The 3 of them began to escape and fight Albright's men. Soon, they ended up in a room that separated them from Albright with a glass wall. Damien told the doctor that he listened carefully to the instructions before the first procedure. He remembered that the transformation wouldn't work if there was metal in the body. By swallowing the bullet, he managed to stay in Mark's body. Albright didn't think Damien would kill him because he was the only one with the formula for the pill. But he doesn't know that Martin broke the code, so Damien burns the doctor with a torch. After escaping the lab, Anna and Madeline go to a safe destination that Martin found for them. But Damien didn't come. Instead, he went to see Claire. He disguised himself as his father's friend and began to open up. He tells Claire that Damien regrets not spending time with him as a child and that he's proud of him. Then, he handed her a letter and left, but not before looking at her once more from outside the window. The next thing we see is Damien waking up in a hotel room. He was confused and looked for a video of himself on the computer. It turns out that Damien is no longer in Mark's body. The billionaire decides to give up the pill and let Mark take over, restoring the life that was taken from him. Mark was surprised but very grateful. He then joins Madeline and Anna, who now live on a beautiful tropical island.
Thanks for watching this video. By clicking this you can watch the next movie. I happily invite you to watch that beautiful movie. Welcome to the cinematic universe.